We have some breaking news as demonstrators gather protesting after a trooper shot and killed a man earlier this week. And it comes on the heels of nationwide protests stemming from the George Floyd death in Minnesota. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here on 12news.com, the 12 News app, and our social media platforms as well. I'm Kadiva Devine. Right now, you're looking at some live images. This is from Sky 12 over East Lake Park. That is at 16th Street and Jefferson. This is where those demonstrators are gathering right now. You can see that there's a crowd there, maybe about 50 or 60 people. Not a ton of people just yet, but the event was scheduled to start at 7 p.m. So right now it is 7:07. It'll last until 10 o'clock tonight, but you can see people gathering there. A stage is set up for some speakers and presenters, some chairs, and then people there gathering on the lawn. Now, this event has been moved from DPS headquarters, where it originally was supposed to take place, and now it has been moved to this location at East Lake Park in Phoenix. The protesters there are focusing on Dion Johnson. Investigators say a DPS trooper shot the 28-year-old earlier this week near Loop 101 and Tatum. Police say a trooper found Johnson passed out in a vehicle blocking a freeway lane early in the morning. Records show that Johnson had previous law enforcement encounters, including time in prison for armed robbery and assault. Phoenix police, who took over the investigation, say that when the trooper approached Johnson, there was a struggle. The trooper fired their weapon and struck Johnson, who was pronounced dead at the hospital. Investigators haven't said more about how the struggle took place, which is tough for loved ones of Dion to grasp. Now, Phoenix police say the troopers at the scene were not equipped with body cameras or dash cameras to capture what happened. We're going to send things now over to Erica Stapleton. She is live there at DPS headquarters, which is where the protest was originally supposed to take place. But Erica, now we're seeing that they have moved that location to another place near 16th Street and Jefferson to East Lake Park.
Hey guys, I just want to point out right now that if you look at the DPS headquarters, it's like a fortress. They put up fencing all around it, and they actually closed off all the streets surrounding the building as well, going up and down in Canto here near 21st Ave and 22nd Avenue. So this all in preparation for a protest that was scheduled here at 7 o'clock tonight. That protest, we have been told, has shifted locations. A lot of the protesters showed up here to support Dion Johnson. I'll get into that story in just a minute. But we have been told that the protest has shifted locations to 15th Ave and Jefferson. There's a park near there that family members of Johnson's, as well as friends and some protesters that were out here on the scene earlier, told us that they would be shifting locations because they showed up and saw that this was so guarded off. Now, I do want to get into the backstory as to why we are here tonight. We've been told that Dion Johnson, he was shot and killed by a trooper Monday morning around 5:30 in the morning. Police tell us that he was found in a vehicle near 101 and Tatum Boulevard, and we have been told that he was passed out in the vehicle. Police tell us that a trooper approached the vehicle. There was a struggle of some sort. That trooper fired a weapon, struck Johnson, and he was later pronounced dead at the hospital. So what we also know from police is that there was no body-worn camera. The troopers that were on the scene did not have any body-worn camera, and there was no dash cam video available as well. So hoping to get some more answers there. Police also tell us that they found a gun or recovered a gun from the scene. But again, it's not clear what that struggle was, what led up to that. And it's also not clear how the gun was involved or where it was found. So again, we're working on getting some more information from DPS and Phoenix Police. I should say that Phoenix Police took over the case because it is a trooper involved incident. And as for the trooper that was involved in the case, we have been told that the trooper is on paid administrative leave. That is standard protocol when there is a trooper involved incident like that. Now, we have been in communication all day long with friends and family of Dion Johnson. He was 28 years old. We understand that he did have a criminal record, but again, his family is unclear as to why he needed to be shot that day. Again, we're hoping to get some more answers from DPS and from Phoenix Police as to what may have led up to the struggle that led to Johnson's death. And again, this is something that a lot of people have actually come out here for. Now, despite the protests shifting locations, we can actually see some folks have come out here earlier today. Some folks still out here right now walking around the headquarters, or at least the perimeter where the fence was, hoping to kind of stand up for Johnson and his family as they figure out some more details in that situation. So again, it's kind of a confusing scene for a lot of the folks we've been out here. We've been out here for several hours, and we've had people driving by saying, hey, do you know where this is happening? And honestly, we've talked to some organizers and family and friends of Johnson's who are also a bit confused as well. So trying to piece together exactly what's happening, and I think a lot of it has to do with the scene that we see here at DPS. I'll give you another look and just kind of walk you through what I've been seeing as we've been out here for the past several hours. I got here around 3 o'clock, and at that point in time, they were just starting to put out the fence around this main building here. So this is the parking lot. You can see the DPS statue. That's typically where we park. It's mostly public parking as you go in, but that all blocked off. And then we started to see some of the buildings surrounding it get blocked off as well with this fencing. We've also been told that similar fencing is up at the Capitol building to protect the scene from protests and any damage that could be done. And again, after we saw the fencing go up, we started to see the streets close down. So that's really the scene here. And again, I think it has deterred some of the protesters. They opted to shift locations to a more open area. We're going to be keeping track of what's going on and working to get in touch with Johnson's family, as well as getting more information from Phoenix Police and DPS about what happened that led to his death. For now, we are live in Phoenix. Erica Stapleton, 12 News.
All right. Thanks so much, Erica. And as she mentioned there, maybe a little bit of confusion in terms of the location. The vigil was scheduled to start at 7 p.m. at DPS headquarters, but it wasn't until about 6:30 that the event organizers sent out a tweet saying that the location had changed to East Lake Park, which is at 16th Street and Jefferson. So this event likely will be getting a little bit of a late start as people start to trickle in. Right now you're looking at live images of Sky 12 over East Lake Park, and not a ton of people yet. It looks like maybe about 100 or so, maybe a little bit less than that, starting to gather. But the event is being organized by Black Lives Matter Phoenix Metro. The group is calling for a peaceful vigil demanding justice for 28-year-old Dion Johnson. You just heard Erica give you the backstory on Dion Johnson. Now, they are asking for some demands. They would like for the police report to be released. They would also like for highway traffic camera footage to be released. And they want the officer's name released, the officer who shot Dion. What we know about the officer, 54 years old and a 15-year veteran of the department. And they would also like for the firing and for charges to be put on the officer as well. Now, protesters are asking the organizers are asking protesters to bring masks to protect against COVID-19, and also a candle in honor of Dion, George Floyd, and others who have died in police violence. And of course, water. As we know, we hit triple-digit temperatures today, in fact, tying a record. And so definitely heat is certainly going to be a factor, and those protesters will definitely need to stay hydrated while out there. Well, tonight's rally comes after a night of protesters clashing with Phoenix police. Team 12's William Pitts joins us with details on that and how police did their best to keep things under control.
The windows at Phoenix PD headquarters are repaired now, but Phoenix Police Chief Jerry Williams says for the most part the protesters were fine. She says the problem was a smaller group that wasn't interested in keeping it peaceful.
Every time we watch a video of something happening that's so tragic, as police chiefs, we all sit back and think, please let this just be not my city and my agency.
Phoenix Police Chief Jerry Williams says she understands the frustration over George Floyd's death during an arrest in Minneapolis, which has sparked protests across the country.
It does not reflect the values of this noble profession we call policing, and it certainly doesn't align with the expectations I have, you have, of the Phoenix Police Department.
And she says Phoenix Police worked with the protest organizers Thursday night. She says they knew the protest was happening and who the organizers were.
Our officers patiently blocked roadways, allowing space for hundreds in attendance.
But Williams draws the line at what happened later in the night, hours after the initial protest began.
Of a small group of individuals changed that peaceful protest to one that was criminal.
Demonstrators moved through downtown, eventually ending up at the state capitol, and that's where things changed. Phoenix police say some of them tried to break into the Capitol buildings. Then they damaged police cars, breaking windshields, in one case, stealing equipment from inside the car. Police used pepper spray and declared an unlawful assembly.
I hereby declare this to be an unlawful assembly.
Eventually, protesters cleared out but headed back toward Phoenix Police headquarters. That's where police say the protesters used rocks to smash the front windows of the department. Protest organizer Reverend Jarrett Maupin said he never intended the protest to get violent.
But what happened after the masses left was unlawful assembly and an attack on law enforcement, and I cannot condone that. I refuse to do that.
A total of 8 people were arrested last night. William Pitts, 12 News.
All right, thanks so much, Will. Now we're going to go to some live video of protests that are happening right now in the Atlanta area. We're told, or we've been seeing images of protesters gathering in large crowds there, and also armored vehicles. You can see police there as well as things start to get going there. And of course, all of this comes on the heels of that viral video. George Floyd, being arrested by an officer as he knelt on his neck for several minutes. And of course, that ultimately led to the death of George Floyd. So these videos have been going viral across the country, protests and even riots breaking out across the country in states like Minnesota, California, Texas, New York, and of course even here in Arizona. And those protests oftentimes have been turning quite violent. We've seen some of the most shocking video coming out of Minneapolis, where protesters torched a Minneapolis police station there. Fires burning into today across Minneapolis, as well as St. Paul, the National Guard even being called out and being stationed to help protect property there. So once again, tonight we are starting to see those crowds gather again and law enforcement on guard. You're seeing live pictures right now from Atlanta, Georgia there, live video there from Atlanta, Georgia, as those protesters begin to gather. Well, tonight, Twitter is slapping a warning on President Trump's blunt tweet on the unrest going on in Minneapolis, saying the president glorified violence. The latest exchange only deepening the president's rift with the social media giant. Team 12's Alice Barr brings us up to speed.
As protests raged overnight on the streets of Minneapolis over the death of George Floyd in police custody, President Trump touched off a controversy of his own. The president tweeting, quote, "These thugs are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd," adding this, "When the looting starts, the shooting starts." Twitter slapping the tweet with a warning label, saying it violates company policy by glorifying violence. Twitter referenced the historical context. "When the looting starts, the shooting starts" was a phrase used by a 1960s Miami police chief who's been denounced as racist. President Trump later denying he knew that history and offering this explanation.
Frankly, it means when there's looting, people get shot and they die. And if you look at what happened last night and the night before, you see that. It's very common.
The president saying Floyd's suffering was obvious and calling what happened to him an insult to policing.
I spoke to members of the family, terrific people. The family of George is entitled to justice, and the people of Minnesota are entitled to live in safety.
President Trump's presumptive Democratic rival, former Vice President Joe Biden, weighing in today.
It's no time to encourage violence. This is a national crisis. We need real leadership right now.
Others pointing out how President Trump is calling Minnesota protesters thugs, while he backed some of the most extreme opponents of coronavirus lockdowns.
You had white men in particular storming the Capitol, armed to the teeth. And the president tweets out, "Liberate Minnesota."
New controversy amid an escalating feud between President Trump and Twitter. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And back here in the Valley, we continue to follow this breaking news. This is East Lake Park in Phoenix at 16th Street and Jefferson. Sky 12 showing us some live video there as people start to gather. This is for a vigil for justice for Dion Johnson. Dion Johnson is an Arizona man who died after being shot by an Arizona DPS trooper during a struggle. This happened earlier on Monday. And this event here, organized by Black Lives Matter Phoenix Metro, they are calling for a peaceful vigil demanding justice for the 28-year-old Dion. Now, things are probably going to get a little bit of a slow start because the location was changed. It was scheduled to start at 7 o'clock at DPS headquarters. But about 30 minutes or so before the event was scheduled to start, it was moved to this area, East Lake Park. So I think a lot of people are kind of trickling in after noticing that the original location had been moved. So we are going to continue to stay on top of this. Bianca Bono, Mitch Carr, and the entire 12 News team are out at the scene, and we're going to bring you the very latest breaking news coverage throughout the night as needed. And of course, be sure to join us for 12 News at 10. Until then, I'm Kadiva Devine. Thanks so much for joining us on 12news.com, the 12 News app, as well as our social media channels. Have a good evening, everyone.